Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you clicking on the video and engaging with the content. It is new content for me, and it's kind of weird for me to talk to a mic and kind of get myself out there and stuff like that. But I'm really passionate about D&D and hopefully my advice and stuff like that can go to good ears, if anything. But without further ado, I want to introduce a couple more D&D horror stories. This is from r/D&D horror stories, of course, from Reddit. This first one is called My Miserable DM, and it comes from Death Becomes Nerds. So last year I joined a campaign with a girl who I was mutual friends with through my best friend. Her boyfriend was DMing a campaign and looking for players, and since I was in between D&D groups, volunteered to play. I hadn't really interacted with this guy much, but I am willing to give people a shot. This guy had a short fuse on his temper. I sat next to him at the table, and one time I looked over and saw that he made a roll, and I asked him what for, and he yelled at me for looking over at the DM's tablet, and nobody does that. I wasn't actively looking over his tablet. It was a turn of the head, and there it was. The first campaign went relatively okay, however, there were jabs every so often from him to about how I was playing my character. My character's mom had been replaced and most likely killed by a doppelganger while I was away, and I wanted to give my character the chance to find her or / the body. The DM literally yelled at me and said, "She's dead. Give it up. There's nothing," and pushed us along to where he wanted us in the story. He said my character's, who's a 15-year-old girl by the way, grief was inconsequential to the story. This guy did not believe in whimsy and hope. Everything was hopeless and dreary and dire, and everything was taken seriously. Me, being a player who wanted to have fun and wasn't taking it too seriously, just made him furious at every turn. He did not like us laughing and goofing off. One session during our second campaign, we were focused on character development and laughing and enjoyed our time together, and that pissed him off so much that the next session he punished us with a Jenga tower. We weren't allowed to roll everything that would be rolled. We had to pull a Jenga block, and if the tower fell, then it was a DPK. It was the most stressful session of D&D I had ever played, sorry. He even openly admitted that it was a punishment. He also favored one of the players, as this player was best friends with the girlfriend, and so she got a lot to do while the rest of us were at the mercy of her and him throwing crumbs our way. I honestly don't know why I stayed through 2 campaigns with this fucker, who once the second campaign ended said he needed a break because he couldn't deal with us anymore, which is fine. I wasn't going to volunteer for a third campaign anyway, just how the second campaign went. It all seems so inconsequential with the other things posted on this subreddit. But even since the campaign ended last month, how he treated me, just not just me, but the other players, has been nagging me, and I have to put these grievances somewhere. Oh man, that really sucks. It seems to me that he didn't really sit you guys down and talk to you about the game that he wanted to play or run for you guys. I'm sure if he sat down and said, guys, I want to play a serious, gritty, down-to-earth, consequential game where decisions matter and you could die pretty much any time. Or, you know, like a Witcher game where everything matters, where the monsters are really hard to kill, but they're very well rewarding in the end. It just seems like he was more of an antagonistic person in this campaign, and that's never fun because he's a DM, because he's supposed to adjudicate the rules and the world, and he just did not do his job. And I think a little communication would have went a long way. If he was getting angry, he should have voiced those frustrations with you guys in a normal, down-to-earth mood, not yelling at you guys, but saying, hey guys, you're joking around with this serious game that I made, and I'd like to think you guys would take it a little more serious. But it also seems like you guys wanted to just play a decent game of D&D and have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. Alright, this story comes from, again, as you expected, D&D Horror Stories on Reddit. This is from Livid Opportunity, and this one is called DM Doesn't Realize the Game Isn't Their Own Novel. I needed to get this off my chest. A while ago, I was in a D&D campaign that I was not having fun in at all. Here's my experience. First, there were so many NPCs. One session, I kid you not, had over 16 NPCs introduced for a plot line that had no point being there for the actual story, because we got literally nothing out of the progress of the story. We were trapped in another realm for weeks, and the whole story wouldn't have changed at all if that didn't happen. We had 5 NPCs in our party, a party of 5. There were 5 NPCs. At one point in combat, there were 16 people in initiative. 13 were NPC. Oh my gosh. There were so many NPCs on multiple occasions. It was just the NPCs talking to themselves, and not a single player rolled. For sessions? Oh my gosh. Also, the NPCs were very one-dimensional, with just I have trauma backstories with no connection to the characters. On top of that, the character was so incredibly railroady, in which if your character doesn't do exactly what the DM wanted, the DM would throw a fit. There was a plot line in which my character didn't want to deal with a devil, because obviously I was playing a lawful good character. When my character said no, and some NPC did half-ass attempt to change her mind, she literally said, "But we have to." I rolled as my character would play, or what my character would play, which is to say no. This was due to the request being absurd, and again, my character wouldn't want to make a deal with the devil without a good persuasion. I and other players thought it would be a good roleplay experience, but the DM just sat there getting upset. The DM also got mad at certain roles. My character was made to be very persuasive, and the DM just didn't care. She wouldn't let me or anyone else roll persuasion on an NPC, no matter how good your argument is, which makes sense for some characters, but it happened like with every NPC. It felt very much that you had to do it how she wanted it done. You couldn't find a creative solution. Not to mention, there was multiple relationships that were very power imbalanced. It was a warlock, patron, predatory devil thing. It didn't make me uncomfortable until she insisted it wasn't a power imbalance thing, and just got mad at every comment, saying it was weird and gross. Weird and gross as what the characters are saying. The players felt the same, but it would be an interesting plot development to get the warlock to end their relationship. However, the DM is insisting upon being cute and fine made it weird. IMO. Also, she changed my character's backstory without telling me. Also, I talked to her multiple times about these issues and she never changed. It wasn't the worst, but did such to play. Alright. This person did not want to play D&D. This person wanted to write a book. This person thought that if he shoved enough narrative and characters with even one-dimensional stories into the story, you guys would go along with being railroaded, and it just seems like this person, this DM, he or she, I can't really remember in the story, but he or she is just frustrated with the fact that you guys aren't doing as they say. Which goes back to this person just wants to write a book, and they should just sit down and write the book, because then they have full control over what your characters do. It seems to me that he wanted to have fun with you at the beginning, but as the parties essentially accumulated NPCs and he started enjoying NPCs talking to each other for whole sessions, it just seems like he didn't want to play D&D. He wanted to write a book, and at that point it's okay to just drop out. This one comes from, you guessed it, D&D Horror Stories. This is a bonus story for you guys, and this one is called DM Railroaded My Character, Then Killed Me When I Was Away. Hi, so this all happened around a year ago. It was my first time playing D&D, and I decided to play Artificer because I thought the class looked fun and interesting. The DM warned me not to. Apparently, Artificer was this deadly accident or ancient magic, and I was told I'd never be able to learn spells. I'd have 5 health and die instantly, not joking. Besides this, I decided to play it. The DM gave me a few weird offhand comments, but it was whatever. Fast forward 3 to 4 sessions, I'm having fun, doing really well despite the DM said the parties. I can't talk. Despite what the DM said, the party's having a blast, and we reached level 3. I told my DM for my subclass I wanted to be an armorer, but the DM told me I should be an alchemist. I told the DM, hey, I read about all of them and the alchemist isn't what I want to play. Can I play an armorer? And he said, I really need to play alchemist or else the party would die, because apparently we need a healer. We had 2 clerics and a paladin. Oof. In the next session, despite what I said, the DM forced my character to be an alchemist and kind of forced me to do a lot of things I didn't want to. My choices were basically useless. The atmosphere was a little off, but I kept playing reluctantly. Then I got sick and I caught pneumonia. I was out for a good week, and then I was resting for 2 more because of the damage I suffered. I found out through friends who were in the campaign that while I was away, the BBEG had kidnapped my character, cut my head off, and then killed him. The DM did not tell me about any of this. I did not go back to that game. Wow. Holy shit. That's rough. First off, I'm really happy that you're okay. Pneumonia can kick someone's ass, and it can even put people in the hospital. So hopefully you're doing all right. Considering you never went back to the game, it makes me think after 3 weeks you are okay. So first off, that's good. Second off, this DM is a menace. This DM essentially bottlenecked you into what he wanted you to play. And then when you said no, he told you to do it anyway. And then changed it anyway. That's... I could never imagine myself picking up my character, like my player's character sheet, and changing it to what I want them to do. That just seems absurd, and the lack of choice makes me think that he just did not respect you at all. I'm sad because it doesn't seem like the other players really caught on to what was going on or cared about what was going on. Maybe it's okay, well, they're punishing her, so but if I say something, then I'll be punished kind of thing, which is never... Look, abuse is abuse. Call it as you see it. But this is definitely not a friendly DM and should probably stop playing. But I am glad you didn't go back to that game, because no D&D is better than bad D&D. That is all the time I have with you guys. I want to thank you very much for watching and listening and caring about this stuff. I put a lot of effort into this. I'm trying to get more used to talking to a mic and realizing that my voice is just my voice. It can't be changed, because if you didn't know, I hate my voice. But that's neither here nor there. But thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.